it was crazy. Like, people were going crazy. I mean, flipping cars. It was crazy. Like,
The Justin Bieber fans were
shit
flipping
crazy.
cars.
I've never seen anything like that in my life.
Hey guys, welcome to LoveCast, the Boys Love podcast. I'm your host, Kayla, and with me are my co-hosts, Pixie and Alexa. Hey.
Hello.
So here on LoveCast, we always have a fun time interviewing actors, authors, and other people in the BL industry. But there's something extra special about getting to sit down and just talk smack with someone who gets it. So luckily for us, today's guest loves the tea as much as we do. Let's all welcome onto the podcast fellow content creator and YouTube reactor Jordie Seay. Oh gosh. Ignore that.
Welcome.
It's okay, girl. It's okay to be nervous. No, I'm just kidding.
Talking to a star.
Oh.
No, not at all. Oh my god. But I am glad I actually get to sit down with you guys and talk, because there's not many like people you can talk to about the real side of like and the problems with like the BL community and stuff like that.
yeah.
Because
Yes.
some people get a little in their feelings about the truth and stuff like that. So it's nice to be able to sit with like-minded people.
Agreed.
Yes. Yeah, so we have a lot to get into today, but we always start with tea time, and so we figured on theme with the episode would be to talk about the recent announcement that Billkin and Nadal Bangkok had to put out. Basically a couple days ago, I first saw the post on Billkin's Instagram story, and then Nadal posted an official statement. But he basically posted that he noticed that for a few days a car had been following him, like when he would go home and when he would leave home, and like all that kind of stuff, like going to his schedules and stuff like that. And it got to the point where he like stopped and got out of the car and tried to confront him, and they wouldn't put down the window. They kind of like tried to drive away. And in his statement, he was basically like, I appreciate that you guys support me, but I need my privacy, especially when it comes to going to my home and being with my family and stuff like that. And then Nadal put out another statement, once again, just asking to respect the privacy. And they said they are working with the Thai police to kind of search for whoever that was and address the situation. But yeah, that was kind of that situation. So they didn't specifically say that it was like a fan who has been following him around, but in his statement, he did kind of say something specifically to the fans that makes it think they are leaning towards it being kind of like a stalker fan situation going down. So
Yeah, I mean, it probably is. Like, who else would like stalk someone around in a car?
Yeah.
Other than
Like,
a serial killer.
Oh,
Right, yeah, I don't know what type of car like Billkin has or anything, but like if unless you're like Kayla said, like a psychopath or a stalker or like a killer, and you see that he has money, I feel like the only other way you would stalk him would be if you know who he is.
if you're his fan.
It's like,
yeah. I mean, we've talked about this so many times before, like respecting the artist's privacy and their personal lives, but this is just like a whole another level. I feel like I mean, I know they have the Sasang fans in Korea as well, who kind of have the same reputation for basically stalking the artist and knowing their every move. But it's just like every time I hear about it, I'm just like, why would you as a fan think this is the way to go about showing your love to your favorite celebrity? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
like, what do you want to get out of it?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not like it's something new either. Like, it's not that long ago. It was GMM TV that came out with something that don't follow the artist when they're not on their schedules, and I would really be interested, like genuinely be interested in talking to one of these people who do that and figure out what's going through their heads when they're doing this. Because why?
Like, what do you want to do? Tie them up in your basement? Like what's the. But it's crazy because like I'm like K-pop I've been into for a long time. So I know deeply what the effect of like Sasang fans are. And it's crazy because it runs so deep to the point where a lot of times it's not just fans, it's like people that they work with that leak information. And like sometimes it's even like close friends that like give this information out for money and stuff. So the fact that Billkin has someone stalking him, it immediately makes me think like who else is kind of in that circle, you know? So,
Right, like giving out that
yeah.
information that they can know his schedules
Mhm.
and know when he's going home, when he's leaving for
Right.
schedules and stuff like that. Like that's not the kind of stuff that they post every single day.
Exactly.
So it's like they have to be getting that information from
Yeah, and
somewhere.
it's usually information that's really expensive to get.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
like rich bored kids? What?
Yeah. And it's
Basically.
just like all you're doing is making him scared of
Yeah.
you.
Right.
So
I mean, buy him some Gucci or something. Jake.
Yeah.
Follow him around.
What was
Like,
it?
what the fuck?
Like a bunch of fans got like a couple of giant money bouquets and sent them to
oh my
GMM. Like,
god,
do that.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
pay my rent.
Yeah.
That'd be
Yeah.
nice.
There.
Uh,
Pay his rent for a little bit.
It has to be like any kind of attention, even if it's negative. They find it to be good attention. Just the fact that they're being noticed, even if it's
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And bad cloud is good cloud, I guess.
I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. See what they're saying when the police go knocking on their door. You know.
I did it for the cloud. I did it. That's like their like statement.
Oh my god. But they obviously know it's wrong because if they didn't roll down the window when he stopped.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
they just had like
yeah.
like a fangirl fanboy episode, and they were just like they couldn't touch the window to roll it down.
Yeah, on the other side of the
Panicking.
window, like, oh my god, he's coming to me.
He's right
Like,
there.
it's not for the right
Yeah.
reasons, fam.
Oh my god.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, boundaries. Mm-hmm.
Oh man, these fans are crazy. I have to also remember that some of them are like really young, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I also because I can't tell you how many times I'll post something on Twitter, and I'll get someone, and the way that they tweet, I'm like, you have to be like anywhere between like 13 to like 16, and I have to
Yeah.
remember
Yeah.
as kids, like our emotions like just run wild, and we're so like passionate about like maybe even the smallest things.
Yeah.
So I have to remember not to like respond in certain ways because then
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
I'm actually so glad that the internet didn't exist when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
Not to the extent that it does now, at least. Like, thank God.
Yeah. If Twitter was around when I was a kid, oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh.
Oof.
I mean, even like I think I was in like 9th grade when Twitter opened, and even I feel like making it then, I was like, I should not have been on Twitter because some of this, like, you go back and you can see like your memories and stuff from some of the old like tweets and things you say, and I'm just like, what? Like, who was I? Like, I was not that different from some of these like really young fans, so that's why I kind of like they will have their own, hopefully have their own cycle of like growing up and realizing like how is best for them to be in fandom, but like it's still sometimes it's so hard to see like your first response when you see certain reactions and certain things people say. It's just be like, ugh. But that was me not too long ago, so
But that's why we need
can't
to
get too
talk
mad at
about
them.
stuff like this, because like if no one's talking about it, just like sitting there and behind the backs like talking about how wrong it is without telling these kids how wrong it is, then like
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like maybe they like I don't want to sound like a parent. Like that, I think that's like always my fear. I'm like, I don't want to sound like I'm micromanaging like people on Twitter, because like if you're on
Yeah.
Twitter,
Mm-hmm.
you know, do whatever you want. But I don't know. Sometimes it's just I don't even know what to call it. Like it
Mm.
just wells up inside, and I'm just like, I have to correct you, like
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
you're
but
wrong.
as a
But you know,
parent, what I see with like other kids and parents and stuff is that
mhm,
these people, they've grown up in an area where they weren't as invested in the internet, so they don't know what's
mhm,
going on.
yeah,
So they have no control over what their kids are doing online. They don't understand the width of the online world. They don't
Yeah.
understand anything happening there. So they're not putting the limits on their children. So
yeah,
obviously they're not watching them and
yeah,
telling them what to do
Yeah.
and like having some control. They think like the internet isn't the same as real life. So they
mhm,
don't need to have that like control and
Yeah.
guidance.
yeah,
So someone needs to
Yeah.
do
I
it.
think,
Mm.
yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of, like, not as much like, millennial parents, because a lot of them did grow up with the internet
Yeah.
in some aspect, but like I know like my parents and parents of a lot of like older teenagers, I feel like they probably don't even realize the extent to how deep like fandom
Hmm.
spaces go on the
mhm,
internet. I know my mom like had no idea, like when I was getting into all my different fandom spaces as a
Hmm.
teenager, like how deep it was going and like how many people I was talking to and stuff like that. So I feel like they don't even know like how deep into a fandom and into invested into like a show or a pairing or a group or whatever you can get on the
Hmm.
internet now. So like it is kind of like you have that instinct to be like a fandom parent basically and be like, let me help you understand this
mhm,
and guide you almost. And I feel like that's kind of like we've talked about that before, how like as older fans in fandom, you feel like kind of some kind of responsibility to like help out the younger
yeah,
people and be like a guide to
Hmm.
them.
Yeah.
yeah,
But, yeah.
Yeah. It's a big problem, but I think it's gonna get better. The older, like the newer generations get older because they know more about like what the internet is. But yeah, it's a huge problem right now with kids not having the guidance from people older than them.
yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah. So, okay, we kind of talked about like how we should best start getting into like the thick of this
mhm,
conversation, and we thought it would be good to start with like some definitions of like things like how we would define fan
Mhm.
and parasocial relationships, because I feel like those kind of things, those terms get thrown a lot around a lot when we're having those discussions. So like we just kind of wanted to be like, what do we see them as, like dictionary of definition
yeah,
versus how they get used
Mhm.
like in colloquial
right,
terms and on the internet and stuff like that. So I did pull up some definitions here. I did a little Googling. Um, so I pulled up the dictionary definition of fan and parasocial relationships. So a fan is a person who has a strong interest in or admiration for a particular person or thing, whereas a parasocial relationship is a kind of psychological relationship experienced by members of an audience in their encounters with certain performers in media, particularly on
Mhm.
television. So those are kind of like the dictionary definitions that we pulled. And then I don't know, how would you guys define fan or parasocial relationships, or how do you understand them?
For me, fan would pretty much be close to the textbook definition. It's, you are an enjoyer of whatever
Hmm.
a certain like creationist puts out into the universe, and you kind of like, you want to support them any way you can, but it doesn't cross that border of stanhood.
Mhm.
So it's kind of
Hmm.
like you
I was
Mhm.
gonna say stan is like a whole other term at
yeah.
this point.
Yeah.
It's funny because I feel like people don't know the origin of where Stan comes from.
Yeah. Right.
Mhm.
So,
Hmm.
but yeah, I think fan is just like right on that border of still being very, very supportive of this person, kind of like almost more supportive of what you would be to like just someone that, you're friends with, or you have a actual IRL, like in real life relationship with,
Mm-hmm.
but not going
Mhm.
overboard.
Mhm.
And then as far as parasocial relationships, I have a parasocial relationship with Plapod Supercorn as he is my boyfriend. But no, I'm just kidding. But no, like it's I think it's kind of the feeling you get when you actually see these people living their lives and living their dreams, and you're just like, oh, like I love this for them. I'm so happy for them. I want them to do better. I want them to succeed. Just kind of that feeling. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like one of the big things about like parasocial relationships that often gets left out in like when people are discussing it is that like kind of the idea behind it is that it is a one-sided relationship.
Mhm.
So like you're putting all of this in two people who basically do not know your
Right.
existence. And I feel like in that line it kind of falls into like more like standing
Mhm.
because you are willing to put in like more of the money and the time and the dedication, knowing that it is a one-sided interaction and you're not necessarily going to like get anything out of it except like you said, seeing them
Mhm.
succeed and seeing them do what they love and being happy kind of like just to see that aspect, knowing that that's like the only aspect you're gonna
Right.
get kind of.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, for me, like fan growing up, I fan has always been like a really light term for us to use,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
especially in Norway. Like I'm a fan of something, yeah, I like it. Like it's I support it. I'm a fan. But for me, like getting over that like little nudge is the stan term.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the first time I heard it, I'm just like, what? What now? Eminem? What are you saying? But I think even though Stan started like from as a definition of someone who's obsessively
Mhm.
um fanning over someone, I think like
Mm-hmm.
it's evolved into a more um not as like psychotic as Stan in the
Mhm.
song,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but more like a stronger appreciation for the person than just simply a fan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely does not have the same negative connotation that it was originally introduced with.
Mhm.
At least like in online
Mhm.
spaces, I think
Mhm.
especially like, a lot of people call themselves a K-pop
Mhm.
stan or
Mhm.
a BL stan or an X group peer
Mhm.
stan. So I think it's become very, very common in online
Yeah.
spaces and has kind of been adopted very differently.
Yeah, I find it. I find it. I'm really curious if the term started as something people were using to talk badly about someone, like calling them a stan because they were obsessively like fanning over something, or and people just took over the term and started using it for themselves, or that it started from people actually connecting with the character Stan in that movie, because that's a little crazy. But
Ah.
I'm really curious at how did that start. But yeah, right
Like I
now it's
know that it's like stalker and fan put together,
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
but I feel like it's kind of. I'm trying to think of another word that has kind of been diluted over time that could compare to like Stan. I
Mm,
can't think of one off the top of my head right now,
mm.
but like, yeah, I don't know. I guess people just like I don't know. I can't think of why it would just become so normal in conversation
Yeah, I
now.
think like people
Yeah.
struggled with having a word to define themselves as
Mhm.
a fandom, and the feelings they were having, because like it's always been normal to have these football fans and stuff that are
Mhm.
excessively aggressive and loud
Mm-hmm.
and whatnot, but it for women especially and gay people, it
Mhm.
hasn't been as easy to like uh, coin a term for what
Yeah.
we're feeling. and how
Yeah.
our relationship with whatever we're fans of is, because it's it hasn't been normalized, kind of. We
Yeah.
are like the screaming and hysterical fans, right?
Yeah.
So you kind of had to get the like a term that is ours, that we made, that like uh, someone can't like use against us as
Yeah.
a
Mhm.
bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it kind of reminds me of, excuse me, like when we were talking to Ari and they talked about how like Japanese women kind of took the term
Hmm.
fujoshi, which like
Mhm.
men were using in a negative term, a negative light against them, and kind of like started using it for themselves to take away the negativity and take back the power behind that word.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's Stan is quite to that
Yeah.
level, but you know, when you were saying that, that's kind of like what
Hmm.
came to my head. So I don't know if it was that kind of situation where like groups of people just kind of decided to take a term that was already being thrown at them, like in a calling them delusional in a
Yeah.
sense, and we're like, yeah, well then I'm going to use
Yeah.
this for
And you
myself in a
can't
different
hurt me
way.
with it,
But
right?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, I feel like parasocial relationships really boil down to self projection onto another person. So I feel like that
mm,
is the big difference between being like a fan and a stan is like you guys said, with a fan it's something that you like casually, but when you get into stan
Mhm.
territory, that to me is like you're putting money into it
Hmm.
and someone else's happiness or your happiness relies on someone else's
Yes.
happiness. And
Hmm.
basically like anything that they go through, you feel also in a way,
Hmm.
if that makes
mm,
Hmm.
sense. It's just like
Hmm.
this
Yeah.
almost like
yeah,
a psychological but also emotional back and forth where you're
Hmm.
like, if I don't have this person, like what am I going to do? Or like for example, like I've been joking nonstop about how like not me is the only thing that is getting me through the week. And I feel like that's like I feel like that's like a parasocial relationship because
Yeah.
even if
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's said in a joking
yeah,
manner, it's like, is it really healthy that
Right.
these people in this series are the thing that's getting me through the week? It kind of,
that you like
Yeah.
look
yeah,
forward
I feel
to.
like
Yeah.
stands sometimes can really teeter on the line of what's healthy and unhealthy for a relationship
Hmm.
with a
Hmm.
celebrity.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think where it jumps over that line is whether or not you're able to break away from that relationship
Right.
in a healthy way, because I know like a lot of people loved Bad Buddy, and
Hmm.
I know there was like a lot of discourse on Twitter about like comparing like how Enchante isn't going to be as good as Bad Buddy and stuff like that, and
Oh,
like
I
I'm
hate
Hmm.
still
comparison.
here in episode blah 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 blah
God.
blah of Bad Buddy, and
Oh, yeah, the episode 15 of Bad
right,
Buddy. Oh my god, yeah.
and I'm just like, because I was talking to my friend Alyssa, and I was like, we were talking about like how like people are kind of comparing the two because they're honestly standing on their own.
Hmm.
Enchante is
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
not the same feel as Bad Buddy. Bad Buddy was very much in your face, like the plot was heavy, and there were like multiple underlying plots that just kind of drove this like core plot in the story. Whereas Enchante is
Hmm.
kind of, I like to think of it as like slice of life. Like
Hmm.
you're just
Yeah.
going through
Yeah.
their daily,
Yeah.
and it's kind of things are gonna fall in place, and there might be like a little bit of conflict and stuff like that, but it's not gonna
Hmm.
be But I think the line between a healthy and an unhealthy I was about to say paranoia. Parasocial relationship is whether or not you can break away from your attachment to something, but still be like, oh, I remember like in Bad Buddy, like this was like amazing. I love this. Like I might go back and watch it or something like that, but
Hmm.
not to the point
Hmm.
where you just disregard everything else that can happen from this point on and just stay in this section.
Hmm.
Stuck.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That was gonna, I had that something similar to that, like in my notes, because I've always kind of viewed fandom as, for a lot of people, it's been used as a form of escapism.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Like you come home after a long day and work was shitty and you need something to just kind of immerse yourself into to get your mind off of
Yeah.
things. And whether that is watching a K-pop performance or watching a K-drama or whatever it may be, it is a form of escapism for a lot of people. I know I definitely have used it as that over the years, but I think when you don't want to come back to reality afterwards, or like you can't bring yourself out of that form of escapism and come back to reality, so much so that it is like consuming your thoughts at all times. And you're spending, I mean, there are people who spend like every waking moment thinking about, maybe it's Bad Buddy or this K-pop group, or spending all of their resources on these things, so much so that it impacts like their daily life. I feel like, when you can't come back to reality after entering that form of escapism, that is like a big line, that's when it steers into like unhealthy territory.
Yeah, I mean, when you get like the physical reaction from someone opposing to your view on a show, like to the point that like you feel the need to harass someone who just doesn't like the same show that you do, then you're like, maybe you should take a step back.
It's time to take a breather, disconnect for a little bit. Yeah, like people should not be afraid to express like dissenting opinions on something. And if
100%.
if your fandom or your group has so much of a reputation that like people are scared to like say anything other than positive things, like that for me signals something as a collective, that like there are lines being crossed there.
Yeah, for me, like being critical to something you like is a good thing, because you're always supposed to like strive towards better, right? If you're happy with how it is right now, you're never gonna get anything better. You're just gonna be at that level forever. Like always look for things that you can improve. And if you can't like give any criticism to a show, like none, then there's a problem there. Then you're worshiping, like it's like god worship, like there's no fault to it, right? So it's not good.
Yeah, I always say, like, if you truly hated a series, you would not have a word to say about it, because you just wouldn't care enough. But I feel like when you really love something, you're ride or die for it. And yeah, it does get out of control sometimes, if you can't figure out what is reality and what's not. But I'm kind of curious, Alexa, what do you think from a psychological standpoint about the fact that Delulu fans, like that's a term that's used, like Delulu, and it's used very casually and frequently?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like definitely from a psychological perspective, like there, especially in recent years, has been a movement for not using terms like that as lightly. Things like psychotic, crazy, this person's a psycho, they're insane, they're delusional, because those are real symptoms that real people go through. But I do think it is another situation where a term has, kind of like what Jordie has said, has been watered down in an online space or in just like a fandom space in general over years. I mean, I am a psychology student, and I throw the term around. I'm not gonna lie, So I feel like in the fandom space, the meaning has definitely been watered down over years to refer to more to someone that can not like, who blurs those lines between fiction and reality way more than they should be, or in a manner that's not unhealthy. So like I don't think it's being used like in the psychological definition. It's not in fandom spaces. But it definitely is something to think about, like when you are using those terms, like their origins and what they mean for people who live with, psychological diagnoses in real life and things like that. But, things get taken and kind of co-opted in their own ways. And, they get to the point where like, there's no, there's no way that like you can engage in the space without using them, if that makes
But
sense.
I kind of find it interesting because when it's sort of when we use the term Delulu, it's sort of a way to explain how someone's acting without getting into the territory of mental illness. Like when you say
Yeah.
someone is Delulu, you're just referring to them not seeing the fiction versus the reality on a very small scale. You're not calling them mentally ill.
Yeah, that's
It's the
exactly. It has
same.
definitely been watered down.
It's the same thing. If you think like back, we've had this discussion last year, I think, on the term non-con in writing, because non-con in writing is a term used to not, because like it means like non-con isn't a thing. Like non-con is rape.
Yeah.
Right? That non-con doesn't actually exist, but you use it in as terminology in writing because rape in writing isn't the same as the real thing.
Yeah.
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 So you kind of water down the term because you don't want that triggering effect. I'm really bad at explaining this. Sorry.
No, it makes sense.
No, I understand. Because, like, you're saying, like, you want to say, like, I am not calling these people delusional in the sense that there is something mentally wrong with them, but trying to indicate that,
they're
like,
crossing a line.
their actions are,
Yeah.
So I feel like it's definitely taken on a different meaning in that way. Yeah. If that makes sense. You put me on the spot there asking me about psychology. I was like, oh no. Is my school brain working today?
No, I guess it is like the same thing with the word stan, how it did mean someone who is very obsessive in almost a violent way, but now it's just like you're a super fan.
Yeah. And I think Delulu still does have a negative connotation because, like, you know, you don't want to be a Delulu fan, but it definitely has been.
People joke around with it all the time and say that, "Ooh, I'm being Delulu."
I'm
going. I've said it multiple times. Like,
I'm too.
I mean, I'm joking, but like sometimes I'll just feed into like I said, a healthy way, like feed into the possible boyfriend culture of these actors, and I'm just like, I'm going to Lulu, like, like I might say the B word, you know, and stuff like that. But then I'm just like, you know, obviously, you know, I'm kidding, but it's always, you know, sometimes it's fun to like play with that. Should I even call it aesthetic to be a Delulu? I feel like some people make
like
it
a meme almost.
Yeah.
But then we reel it back in, and then we, you know.
I mean, they're
bring back to reality.
Yeah, but that's really interesting too, because like you have this group of people who use Delulu as, and also use like shipping and all that as like a joking thing, but then you have the other side of people who think that joking is real, so they ship two people together as if they are actually together, make videos micro analyzing every movement they do to prove that they are a thing. And
and it's funny because a lot of these people that are micro analyzing, you know, little social cues and nuances have probably never been in a relationship in their lives. And so like I'll look at it from someone who has been in a relationship, and I'm just like, no. So yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting.
Yeah. I feel like we've talked about this before in a couple different episodes, how the BL industry really feeds into that, because the people who believe that their ships are real or want to believe that their ships are real are the people who will spend money on their fan meets and buying their sponsored products and buying their photo books and all these things. So, you know, like the fan service in BL as a whole is like, to an extent, promoting that level of Delulu thinking. So, and we've talked about a lot how it's just kind of like a cycle of like the industry promotes it and the fans take it too far, but then it gives them more money, so they keep promoting it, kind of thing. And when people, we've talked about how when it comes down to it, being shipped is like a job for these actors. Like, they are told to do certain things and act certain ways, and then there are other people who know, like, yeah, they're probably really good friends in real life, but I know that there is no romantic connotation
Yeah.
behind this, and I know that they are probably being told to do a lot of these things. And then there are the people who see the things that will happen like on stage at a fan meet and take that and run with it. So, I don't know. I think the industry is to blame to some extent, and we've talked about that a lot
Root of
before,
the
especially when
problem.
you have these young fans coming into it and seeing, especially if this is like the first fandom that they've ever entered into, and like this is the type of stuff they're seeing from like the actors and the
Yeah.
pairings that they're becoming a fan of. It really sets like a weird precedent for their expectations, I feel like.
One thing that I do kind of, it's just now starting to happen more in the Thai industry, but in like the Taiwanese BL like industry and um like the Korean BL industry, you see like a lot of these actors not necessarily creating a ship, but
Mm-hmm.
they have them act with multiple different people. So like
Mm-hmm.
with the Thai
Mm-hmm.
industry, I feel like they're kind of testing the waters with specifically First and Cowtongue,
Mm-hmm.
where they
Yeah.
are not necessarily like tied to one person.
Mm-hmm.
And Gawain as well. They're not tied to a ship. They've been with multiple different people in multiple series, but people aren't having that kind of delusional state of, oh, like,
Mm-hmm.
why is Cowtongue with First
Yeah.
and not Pod? And when, why
Yeah.
is
Mm-hmm.
Gawain with who is he with now? Oh, like First. And why is he with
Yeah.
First and
First
not
and
and
not
not Pod?
and not
I feel like
Pod.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like Pod
That
is
whole
like
little
the
quadruple
ex-boyfriend
there is just
of
like
GMMTV. So I
Yeah.
think they're like actively trying to, they might not be actively trying to, but I feel
Yeah.
like it's kind of dismantling that thinking where just
mm-hmm.
because someone acts in something different or is with a
Mm-hmm.
different person that it's a totally bad thing and that
Mm-hmm.
their ship failed. Because obviously we know like any
Yeah.
of the things that these three actors I mentioned did was really good, except for Tone Hon Shanati. I don't know, like
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
I love Pod so much, but that show, but like,
yeah, no,
you know what
that
I mean?
wasn't
Like
it.
it's,
Something.
their ship was fairly, successful and people,
Mm-hmm.
kind of ping to them. So,
Yeah.
but yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
one thing I've noticed, like GMMTV is like a discussion in itself because I've noticed, like, I've been watching F4, right?
Oh
And
God.
you know
Mm.
Bright and Win, right?
Yeah.
Have you noticed how even though Bright is the main character with a lead actress in that show, he isn't doing any, almost none, promotional things with her.
Hmm.
She is doing it with Do,
Yeah.
who is the
Mm-hmm.
second lead, and we know she doesn't end up with him. So what are they actually do? Are they afraid if they put her and Bright together in all the promotional that the Bright Win stands will leave,
That
jump
honestly
ship?
probably is the case.
And they
Yeah.
might too.
'Cause,
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They might actually do that, which
like,
is so fucked up to me.
Bright Winds are they're very passionate and like because we've been
Mm.
reacting on Shaki's channel to F4 and we've been going in on it like
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
And we've gotten a lot of comments and it's like, I mean, I feel like again the going back to that not being able to tell between fiction and fact, like we're
Mm-hmm.
not going in on Bright or Win or
Mm-hmm.
any of
Yeah.
the actual like actors and actresses. We're talking about the characters
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
plot line, but you still get those people in the comments that are just like
Take it personally, right?
Oh
they
yeah.
take
You
it
should-
way too personal.
Yeah,
Mhm.
too
But
personal. Yeah.
yeah, that you might be onto something because ugh,
Yeah, Brightwin is like the cash cow of GMM TV right now.
yeah.
So like there,
Yeah.
I actually got really annoyed when I saw that Bright isn't doing any promotional with the lead actress.
Mhm.
I got so annoyed because it just shows this like the real problem they have
Yeah.
with like that the it's the company's fault as well, because they're actually like they are physically like stopping progress. I don't know.
Yeah.
I get that they're probably trying to like test the waters with the newer, younger actors that they haven't like started earning a lot of cash out of yet.
Mhm.
So they're testing those with a lot of different ones, but they know they won't earn as much money if they split up. Like if they split up Mix and Earth right now,
Mhm.
there
Yeah.
will be all hell, right? People will go bonkers.
Yep. Yeah.
Which is so like, okay, what is happening?
Yeah. And I mean, we talked about in our other
One-
tea time the whole thing with Earth Mix fans being so upset that he was posting from somewhere that wasn't Mix's house.
Oh yes.
Oh my
Oh
god. Yeah.
my god.
Oh my god.
Just that possessiveness.
Yeah.
I feel like this all stems from that huge Twitter investigation when Earth first bought his place, and they were trying to figure out whether or not Mix was living with him. And they literally
Oh my
screenshot that
gosh.
window in the
Yes.
corner, and they were like,
Yeah.
And like
blinds.
zoom in and like
the blinds are the same shade of off-white.
I'm like, guys.
Yeah, and I
Guys,
can't figure
please.
out if they think that like Earth and Mix won't see that. Do they think they don't like watch what people write?
Fan clout.
Like 100% they're gonna see that, and are
Yeah.
they fine with them seeing it?
I've come to the conclusion that people on Twitter don't realize that even though you don't hashtag something, if the word is there, it'll still
Yeah.
pop up in the search.
Mhm.
It'll
So-
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they see it, and they laugh at us every single day. Because if I were an actor and stuff was posted about me like that, I would cackle until I couldn't laugh anymore.
Cackle to the bank, right?
Honestly.
Like, give me
Wow,
that
y'all are
money.
really
I don't
on
care.
some shit.
Oh my god.
Oh man.
No, but yeah.
One example that I feel like is really interesting that has kind of, I feel like, fallen in between like Brightwin and like First and Cowtongue and some of the other GMMTV actors is Singto, because he is another person who has acted with a lot of different people over the years. Like obviously there's Pariah, and they are like
Oh
one
my
of or were one of the pillars of GMMTV for years. And since then he's acted with Ohm. He was in Friendzone where he was hooking up with everyone, you know. He just did Paint with Love with Tay. And, you know, he still had a very successful career, like going outside of his established pairing and like acting with other actors. But Pariahs as a fandom, I feel, are still very possessive of him despite that.
He's still
mean-
doing promotional stuff with the Christ.
Yeah. They still do a lot of like fan meets and stuff together. Unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean that ship should have like sunk like a long time ago. It's the same like the Saint Sea ship. I mean that's like
Jordie's like
that's not
no.
even a sinking ship. That ship has sunk a long time ago.
Honestly, like no lies there. But like I don't know. I feel like also it's how Singto deals with the fans that are just like coming after him with stuff, because like he'll do like Instagram lives and he'll talk to people about like, you know, his promotions, and he won't directly address the stuff that he's probably seen on Twitter and stuff like that, but he'll kind of like, you know, touch on it just a little bit. He'll say something like, you know, like, I know you guys, you know, hate that, you know, I did this or blah, 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 but like, this is really nice too, you know, and just kind of like focus on the, so I like how he handles it. And he kind of makes it to where he doesn't give too much energy to that negativity. And he just focuses on the stuff that he's doing currently. And then people are just like, okay, I mean, he's not going to pay attention to me and it's not working. So let's support, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really sorry. That's
Yeah,
like
I think that's a big
101
thing.
like parenting thing you do with kids.
Don't give
Yeah.
into the negative attention.
Yeah, you give the kids like two options that are like more on the positive side that isn't like on what they're having a tantrum about, so that they'll forget about it and you'll get your way either way. So
Yeah, that's literally gentle
Yes,
parenting.
dealing with BL fans is
Yeah.
basically being a parent.
Yeah,
so
I
smart.
noticed from my experience as a Singto stan that a
Mhm.
lot of Singto's original fans weren't a fan of him individually. They were a fan of him and Chris. So, I mean, we saw that right away with shows like He's Coming to Me not really getting that much attention. Even
Mhm.
Friend Zone, I
Yeah.
feel like his
No
character
promotion,
didn't get
yeah.
much attention, or Paint with Love,
Mhm.
etc. So I do think that at least Singto has like a core group of people who really go hard for him. And I think the fact that, like you said, he does lives where he's very like collected, he's very like rational,
Mhm.
but also very lively at the same time, helps people to
Mhm.
kind of get over that he's not with Chris all the time.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I have
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm curious to see how they're reacting or how they will react when Mike and Chris start promoting
Listen,
their series. And you throw the Bike and Top Tap fans into that, and I feel like it's just gonna be a whole
I am so
a
into
whole
that
mess.
show.
I think they're gonna
You
fight.
have no idea. I am
Like-
so into this.
Honestly, like I didn't think when I heard Mike and Chris were gonna be together, I was
Yeah.
I was like, oh, what is this?
Yeah, you're like, okay.
I was like, okay. But then I
Then
saw
you
the
saw the
trailer
trailer.
and I was like, wait.
Yes.
You
That
guys
was
might
my
be onto
exact
something.
reaction.
Because like as much as like, people dislike Chris and as much as we don't really know that much about Mike, they know how to play someone's significant other really, really well.
Mhm.
Like I don't know what it is. They just have this kind of I don't know. Like I can't
Yeah, I
explain
don't know
it. Like
either.
I don't know. Like I
There's a
see so many
magnetism
comments
there.
and it's just like Chris plays a boyfriend really well or something like that. And I'm like, the irony. But like I think Mike is just very charismatic, so he pairs well with anyone.
Yeah,
Or he
very
can pair
true.
well with anyone. So that I feel like that's what'll make the chemistry really nice. And the fact that they're really good friends outside of series as well.
Yeah.
So,
Makes it comfortable.
yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm more excited,
I am
less
too.
about the actual pairing and more about the story, and like because we haven't
It is
really
a
had
very
anything
cool
like
story.
this. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I do think it's a really interesting storyline. I'm curious to see how it'll all come together.
I have a question. Like we were talking a little bit before we started, and I remember back in the day when Justin Bieber was like big, and he came to Norway, and there was like this. It was crazy. Like people were going crazy. I mean, flipping cars. It was crazy. Like
The Justin Bieber fans were
batshit
flipping
crazy.
cars.
I've never seen anything like that in my life. And I was just wondering, like, how do people learn to be like that for a show or anything? Is it like they come together as a group and just sort of flip out? Or
like, guys, we're gonna
did
flip
they
this specific car.
or do they emulate behavior they've seen in like, because when I grew up, like I had a lot of male family members who are really big, huge soccer fans, and they are crazy. So I'm just like, are young, like the younger girls, like on at this Bieber concert, were they emulating behavior they've seen from adults about like soccer, or is it just like coming together as a collective? You're a lot of young girls, you have like probably your parents aren't standing right next to you right then. You're just like getting into like this, I don't want to say hysteria because I hate that word describing
Calling, yeah.
girls
Yeah.
because it's not. But what? How do you describe it? Like
It has to
the
be like mob mentality.
yeah, mob
Yeah,
mentality.
that's what I was gonna say. I will say it, guys. I was a Justin Bieber fan in my day. I went to many of concerts in Philly, which is like the city known for flipping cars, and no one ever flipped a car at a Justin Bieber
It's just a
concert that
Norway
I
thing.
went
What
to.
the fuck?
I think there is an aspect of group think there, like
Mhm.
like Kayla said, mob mentality. Like depending on the crowd you're in, like if one group of people get so riled up that they're like, we are gonna flip this car, that energy will pass on to other people. And I mean, I don't necessarily see Justin Bieber fans as the type of people to go around flipping cars, but I mean, that energy can spread. I mean, it's a thing that happens at like protests and stuff too. People who don't even care about the cause will come into peaceful protests, and this is what happened with a lot of Black Lives Matter protests. People from outside came in and started
Yeah.
breaking windows and throwing shit on, like lighting shit on fire, and that mentality spread to the other protesters as they got worked up. So I think that is greatly just an aspect of mob mentality, and maybe the people who originally were like, we're gonna flip this car, did learn it from watching their parents at sports games or something like that. But I do think a lot of it like boils down to like mob mentality and getting caught up in the group that you're in and their reactions that are happening around you.
Yeah, and like just feeling that you're a part of something is like fulfilling in a way.
Yeah. I do think like because Norway has a very distant culture. Like culturally, we if we sit down on the bus, you like if there's a person sitting there and an open seat next to them, you don't sit down there. You stand. Like you're not sitting next to someone. So we like don't make eye contact. If you come to Norway, never make eye contact with anyone. Like they will think you're crazy. So I think that and like this coming together like for a huge concert like this when they're not used to it, they're used to not being in these huge groups. It was one of the biggest events. They had way too many people there from what was allowed, and it was just it was so foreign that for some reason like it got out of hand.
Yeah, I think especially too with concerts like that where you have a US based artist going to a country that they probably will never go to on tour very often. It's the same thing when like K-pop idols come to America or tour in a Western country. Like
artists.
yeah. That it's such a rare thing that like I feel like the emotions tied up in it are even higher because like when Justin Bieber was big in America, he would tour like every year, sometimes twice a year. But I'm sure him going to Norway was like a once in however many number of years thing. So like the emotions tied to that are probably even higher.
And his fan
and
group
I feel like
was
that
really
can be
young
applied
as
to a lot
well.
of like they were just caught up in the emotions of having that opportunity. So I feel like that definitely
But I
plays
think
into
it
a
has
lot.
something to say. Like you can tie this into like especially younger female fans not being allowed to express their fan stanness or whatever. Like they don't get to express themselves because it's they're an embarrassment if they do. Like if they try to act the same way about K-pop or BL or anything like their fathers do about soccer, then they're hysterical or out of hand or just like it's a crazy female thing, like you're a crazy teenager, which like there's so much bad connected to it. So they like they don't know how to express
Where to put that
themselves.
energy.
Yeah.
I think that's also partially why online fandoms for things like K-pop and BL and anime are so exponential now because those things are still, and it is like slowly but surely changing. But if you're a fan of especially like Asian media, you have like a very weird reputation, and like especially in Western communities, like being an anime fan or being a K-pop fan is still seen as like a very niche thing. So the online communities for that get even more exponential, and that does provide some outlet to an extent. But then I think like when your only interactions you're able to have with like-minded fans are online, then if you ever do get the chance to like be in that group in real life, then like you are going to have like overzealous reactions and kind of go wild when you finally get to have that experience. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Fandom.
Fandom.
Fandom's a very let me see. Do you guys have any other like notes or anything? That's any things that you wanted to touch on?
I guess this is related, but I wrote something down that has to do with, do you know that guy from Color Rush, the Hyunjin? How he
Oh
did
yeah.
that
Oh,
he did that
yes.
Instagram live where people kept asking him if he was gay, and he was like, I'm not gay, I was just like playing a gay character. And
Mhm.
I've recently seen that resurface, and I've seen a lot of fans call that homophobic and say that he left the show because he's
What?
homophobic. And
Yeah.
so I had this
Oh
question
my
pop into my head of, is like calling a BL actor like this blanket term of homophobic, is that like too much? Is that like diminishing the value of like what that word means?
I
Mm.
think that a lot of times people kind of just throw that term whenever something doesn't align with their narrative. Like when it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
align with the whole, oh, like, they're not together, or if like they confirm they're not together, or if they, like, I imagine he's probably been getting that question many, 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 many times. And
Yeah.
when he finally is just like, no, I'm not. And then people were just like, you're homophobic, obviously, if you're not gay. Like, and it it makes me so angry because I'm just why is someone telling you that they're not gay and they just played a character seems so homophobic to you? And I
Yeah.
get the
What is homophobic
yeah,
there?
like I get the whole, there needs to be more LGBTQIA plus representation in media, and we need to get more of us playing our roles. But I think that people need to understand that a lot of times we don't see the behind the scenes thing. And actually, that's
Mm-hmm.
one thing that I loved about Lovely Writer is they showed like how that kind of process works with them choosing for
Mm-hmm.
characters. Um,
Yeah.
I get it. We want LGBTQ people playing our characters, but if they're not like actually good for the role, then I mean, I don't really have an issue with it. But I do think that that term is being thrown around like too much sometimes, because I also see where they don't say that to people that have outwardly been homophobic. So
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's,
Double standards.
I
Yeah, I mean, especially when you see like Korean artists and stuff, when you know they are from a country that is primarily very homophobic, well, at
Mhm.
least like,
Very conservative. Yeah.
yeah, like
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
it's, I wouldn't say like Koreans are very like um against gays, they just don't want to acknowledge they exist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
It's one of those like don't ask, don't
Yeah.
tell type of
yeah,
situations.
and
Yeah.
for someone to like come out because like the internet and fans feel they deserve to know
Yeah.
is no,
Yeah.
like,
I mean, if there's any type of homophobic behavior involved there, it's the expectation that anyone owes you the right to their sexuality, especially if you're
Yeah.
going to ask them in an Instagram live,
Yeah.
Yeah.
like what, it's not your
yeah.
business. And to come out is something that is highly
Mhm.
personal, and to try and force that out of someone, even if they're not gay. But even if he was, think of if he was and he was not ready to come
Right.
out, like him saying no can be a form of
Mhm.
protection, you know? So like I just think assumptions being made and assuming you have the right to know about an actor's sexuality or their preferences or things like that, that kind of behavior is just like, I wouldn't say that it's homophobic, but if you're going to throw that term back at them for them saying that they're not gay, that is definitely some not okay behavior going
Mhm.
on there.
And you have to think of it. These are like anonymous people online sitting there demanding for someone to
Mm-hmm.
publicly on a public platform tell them their sexuality
Mm-hmm.
or tell them who they're dating or anything like from their private life.
Yeah.
How dare you, honestly? Like it's so it you are crossing a line that's you're so far over that line that you need to like
Yeah.
back off.
Yeah. But that's the
Mhm.
layer. That's the layer that of it is just because they're anonymous.
Hmm.
They can say whatever they want,
Mm-hmm.
and they're just like,
Yeah, they think they
Yeah.
can.
you
Yeah.
know, oh, I can get away with it, or like I'll just start another account, and like it'll be like I started brand new, nobody knows about it, you know.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
Yeah.
whenever I see people commenting like that, and they don't have like their face as their profile picture,
Hmm.
I just take it with a grain of salt because I'm like, oh, in
Yep.
real life, you
Yeah.
would probably never say this to this person,
Hmm.
Mhm.
you know. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah, that is something we had like kind of talked about when we were talking about the Earth situation with the fans commenting and demanding to know where he is. Like, you know, if that was happening in real life, imagine if they were following him around saying, "Whose house are you at? Whose house is that? Like, who are you with?"
Hmm.
Like, that kind of stuff would never fly in real
no,
Hmm.
life. So it's just like this weird power that people think they have from being able to hide
Yeah.
behind a profile picture of a celebrity or someone else on the internet just like gives people an audacity that they would never have in real
Oh
life.
yeah. Along the same
Yeah.
line of like butting into actors' private lives, what about just like the whole conversation of when a BL actor has a girlfriend or
Hmm.
supposed girlfriend? The fan
Yeah.
reactions that come
I
from that.
I mean, there's a real bad double standard, especially in BL, because you see the actors who actually have boyfriends get
mm-hmm.
a lot of support and love, and
Mm-hmm.
everything is just great. But if there's a girl involved, then it's like Armageddon. Like
Right.
she's a gold digger, she is what? She's a slut, she's
She's
what?
It's
ruining my ship.
ridiculous.
She's ruining the fantasy of the fans.
That,
What?
it doesn't make sense because it's like if he had a boyfriend, you're
He still
okay
take
with
it.
it. But if he has a girlfriend, it's almost like the thought process is it's not me, so but
Yeah.
you're okay if he has a
Yeah.
boyfriend.
Yeah.
You
Hmm.
know,
Yeah.
it's that's it's
There's definitely a level of misogyny there,
mhm.
I feel like, as well. Because like even if the boyfriend is not part of their ship, like, you know,
Hmm.
that person's not ruining the ship. But like if a woman is involved in any way, shape, or form, then the fantasy gets broken. And
Hmm.
like it's kind of just like as long as they're playing into gay in any
Hmm.
way, then it's fine, I guess. And then but also like bisexual people exist
Yeah.
Yeah.
and pansexual people
Mhm.
But
exist. So like I don't
also,
know, it's just
you get
weird.
into a like weird territory where you're objectifying these actors completely. Like they are
Hmm.
nothing else than like a sex object for you.
Yeah.
Like who their partner is, basically.
Yes,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and that's yeah. You're getting into a real gray area with that, and that's where people
Yeah.
start throwing at fetishizing and all that
Yeah.
crap. Yeah. So no, I
Yeah. I just think
I
it's
remember. I just remember Bruce. Right?
Mhm.
He has a boyfriend,
Right.
and they are
hmm
super cute together. And if you see on their IG, like he gets so many supportive comments and just
Mhm.
love, and that's great. That's great. Like keep up that. Like hype him up. That's great. We should support the gay actors out there.
Right.
Uh, But you cannot do that, support him and his relationship, and not support these other actors with their girlfriends.
Right.
It's like how Mook's Instagram was flooded with so many hate comments when it came out that she was dating
Oh my
Max.
god.
Oh my god.
Nothing made me angrier
Which,
than that.
you want to know what's weird about that situation too? And every time I think about it, my brain literally melts into a puddle because there's this weird group of people that ship Mook and Mech. And I'm like, why are you shipping them? Because they are brothers and sisters in real.
They're siblings?
Yeah.
Ew.
Not the incest.
One time I got a comment on a video and they were shipping JJ and AJ. Like, seriously. That's what that reminds me of.
What is wrong with
That
you?
makes me so nauseous. You have no idea. But that's not, they're towing like the whole reality versus fiction again. Like you're shipping two people together because you can't see the reality of the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got like chills. And I feel like that also just goes to show that like no matter how open an actor is with their ship not being real, because I feel like Max and Tool have always been
Very open.
very upfront with
Yeah.
the fact that we are best friends, we are brothers, we are best friends, we are brothers. You know, no matter how many times they say that, when Max started dating Mook, like the fans still got up in arms about it ruining the relationship and the fantasy, to the point that like they had to come out and make comments about how Max and Tool will always be together. Like the actor shouldn't have to be making those comments about their friendship and their partnership with another actor. Like I don't, it's just so, it's so weird. That situation made me so angry. Yeah.
And I hate it because Max and Mook's like children could be M&Ms. Like they could like name them
Angels.
like M and M's.
Oh, that would be so cute.
M&Ms. But, anyways,
it just sucks because like I want to see BL actors being cute with their partners and like posting cute and then like, you know, if an actor has a girlfriend, we never get to see that because they have to act basically like that person doesn't exist. You know, like I live off of like Max liking Mook's like photos on Instagram sometimes. I'm like, I want to see you guys post pictures together and be cute. Like I want to see that.
I love when Bright was like with his girl. I don't know if they're still together or not, but like when he would post little things with his girlfriend like during together, and I was like, oh, they're so cute. And like just their whole aesthetic, I was living for it. And then, you know, of course, the fans, and then I think she like unfollowed him, and they just now have separate like
turned into a mess.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand how people don't think about like why does this actor have to live like a loveless life, because they have to have a fantasy because they've used money on these actors, so they feel entitled to live in their fantasies, so no girls allowed. But like you are depriving them of having love in their lives. I've always felt like this about the K-pop artists and stuff, because I know every one of them is dating behind people's backs. Like absolutely, they're having tons of sex, but that's like I want to see them date. I want to see cute couple pictures and stuff like that, because that is cute, and that is like that it brings happiness to the world. And yeah.
I feel like at the end of the day, like kind of bringing it back to the parasocial relationship aspect, like no matter what you invest into your favorite person, like that doesn't give you an ownership over them or their life or the things that they choose to do. And you know, you have to go into deciding to stand a group or a person or whatever, knowing that, you know, you're not going to get necessarily what you want out of them. You know, like you're making that choice to whether you decide to give them support financially or whatever it may be. You know, you have to go into that knowing that like they do not owe you anything because of that. You know, that is a choice that you're making as someone deciding to be a fan of someone, and that doesn't give you any ownership over their lives or their decisions or anything like that. And I feel like that is the thing that a lot of fans that do step over that line don't get, that like they want that ownership, that decisions involved in the actors' lives, and like that doesn't belong to them.
And they're not only looking at it as they're looking at it one-sided, and so I think a lot of people need to understand how to look at things at a different perspective, because I guarantee if they kind of were in the same situation and all of these fans were like, coming after them and not wanting them to be, in love or wanting to be a certain sexuality or wanting to be this way, that way, they wouldn't like it as much as they think the actors they love like it,
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
I think that's good. Unless anyone has any final thoughts that they need to get out.
Yeah, no, I felt I've gone off today, so I'm fine.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these topics are ones that we've touched on before, but it was really nice having you, Jordie, to kind of like put in your 2 cents about everything. Literally everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah,
so yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
So,
sorry.
Yeah. No, if you have any other things you would like to rant about, feel free to.
No,
This is your moment.
I enjoy like talking, because I enjoy conversations that are like very intellectual and very I like looking at different people's sides of things, and like I love how each one of you have a different way of like explaining like how you feel about the fandoms and stuff like that. So it was nice. My brain is tingling right now, so
We like brain tinglings.
brain tingles.
That sounds so weird. Maybe stimulated. My mind is stimulated.
Yes.
Even that sounds kind of weird.
The brain cells are in action today.
Maybe it's just
the brain cells are working.
Our minds are expanded.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I feel like there's no way we can say it.
Yeah, I'm all in for the tingles. I'm that's gonna be my new catchphrase. My brain is tingling.
My brain is tingling.
And that's it for our episode this week. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jordie. We've had so much fun talking about such an important issue, but also having a laugh at kind of the delusional, not to throw that word, but the delusional fans. But yeah, we have to have that balance, I guess, to stay sane. So where can everyone find you on social media?
So you guys can find me pretty much everywhere with Jordie Seay, on Twitter, on Instagram, and then it's Jordie Seay on YouTube as well. I also have a Patreon if you would like to subscribe there. But yeah, I'm a YouTube reactor and BL content creator. So yeah, if you like to check out my stuff.
Yeah, and we'll link everything in the description so you can find it easily. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate, review, and follow us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and share this episode with your BL-loving friends. Did you know we have a merch shop? You can find it at lovecastthepodcast.com. We have hoodies, stickers, shirts, and tote bags. And finally, if you'd like to support the podcast and help us to continue creating and releasing episodes, you can join our Patreon, where you'll receive exclusive access to extra content like my reaction videos, Pixie's audio chapters of BL novels, and Alexa's character analysis, and also behind-the-scenes clips from interviews and recordings that couldn't make the final cut, and more. Thanks again for joining us this week. We want to know everyone's thoughts on this topic, so don't forget to jump into the Discord server or share your thoughts down in the comments. But until next time, bye!
Bye!
All the lights are off except the one in the ceiling.
Maybe you just need to sit in the dark.
No, but but when we started this, I had all my extra lighting on, and it was a lot
Yeah, that
darker.
is so weird. It looked dark in there earlier.
What is going on? It's like the devil or something has taken over this.